It's a beautiful day. It is a beautiful day in Milwaukee. It's gorgeous. Hope you guys are having a great day. It is November 18th. Just as a heads up, this will be our last team meeting before Thanksgiving. We don't host one the week of Tuesday of Thanksgiving week. So just plan ahead there from a scheduling perspective. But I got a lot of stuff to run through this morning, including we'll give you some insights into what's going on in the market of the moment. What's interesting is the market of the moment right now is what I would call like a seesaw. And I'll give you my perspective as to what we're seeing there and why I believe it's kind of like a seesaw, because it's been going a little back and forth. But it's an interesting market right now because it's like my 2-year-old and a 3-year-old. My 2-year-old and 3-year-old weigh the exact same amount. And so when they sit on a seesaw, nothing actually really happens. I'll explain what that means here in a second. Sound good? All right. So to give a little bit of a mission, vision, values, beliefs, and perspectives, 2 things I wanted to touch on with the group. First is commitment in all things. I got to give a shout out to this group and the way they showed up and engaged as it relates to our United Way campaign. We're wrapping that up today. So I appreciate everybody's participation in that. And then 2, to get teamwork together, everyone achieves more. And the reason I bring that up is when we collectively put our force behind something from an influence standpoint, it's amazing how the group shows up in terms of the impact that we can make. And I'll give you that update here shortly. Before we kick it off, though, we have a handful of people to celebrate who capped in the month of October. And so we want to celebrate those folks who had an exceptional achievement in capping in the month of October. First up, longtime industry vet sitting over in our Tosa location, brings the depth and breadth of experience, is bringing the next generation into her business, and is always one of the most incredibly positive people we interact with. Congrats to Nancy Brennan on capping in the month of October. Next up, over in Lake Country, someone who is always giving of her time and talent to others to help bring them up in this industry. Another really incredibly positive spirit who's building a great business and is also an incredible mother. Congrats to Mackenzie Brogan on capping in the month of October. There you go. Next up, our local councilwoman, as I call her now, affectionately call her, is very involved in her community. Her husband, Perry, give back. Her and her husband, Perry, give back in so many different ways. Congrats to Aletha Champagne over in Tosa for capping in the month of October. Next up, an incredible spirit, relatively new to our environment, but has really flourished. You see how sometimes when you cultivate the soil and fertilize the soil, what happens in someone's professional businesses. And I got to give a shout out to Katie Egan-Keene for capping in the month of October. Next up, an incredible woman on a team, learning how to absolutely, kind of building her business brick by brick and learning from really an incredible mentor through the House to Home team. I got to give a shout out to Kathleen Gill for capping in the month of October. Next up, over in the North Shore office on the Highmark team, again, similarly, learning how to build their business brick by brick, doing it at an incredibly high level, relatively newer to the game in terms of total depth and breadth of experience. But Stephanie Jones, congrats on capping in the month of October. Next up, this is a radiantly joyous person. That's the best way I would describe them. And if you interact with them, you totally understand my perspective to it. And I got to give a shout out to Kathleen Clausen for capping in the month of October. Next up, this is an individual who keeps me abreast as to the world affairs. Admittedly, I'm not the best at paying attention to what's going on globally, but this person always, anytime I have an interaction with them, they make me think because of the stuff they're paying attention to and the stuff they put on my radar. And I appreciate it every time we have an interaction. Noak, congrats on capping in the month of October. Next up, shout out in Lake Country, Katie and Jeff Sayers. Jeff's making his transition after 43 years in the car business as to going at this full time. And he is here to help his bride, Katie and Jeff. Congrats on capping in the month of October. There you go. Next up, over in innovation, an incredible woman really building something special with her mentor in Noah in Brew City Capital and doing things through mainly in the investor space, but a variety of other ways within how you build wealth within the real estate space. Congrats to Rachel Schreiner for capping in the month of October. All right, I got 3 more for you. The next 2 have a very similar story. And I love their stories because of the growth of personal growth, and professional development. And the first one I met before she had kids, jumped into this business and has grown at such an incredible clip. Now is a mother of 3. Again, the story of growth personally and professionally. Got to give a shout out to Casey Lopez. It's been an incredible journey watching you continue to grow personally and professionally. Next up, very similar parallel track. She also just had her 5th child. She had the child with her last week at Business Planning Clinic in the back of the room. I got to give a shout out to Abby Wall for capping in the month of October. And then lastly, over in the innovation space, as I say, your world is better every interaction you have with them, because every interaction you have with them might be wild. I got to give a shout out to Dan and Sherry Wild for capping in the month of October. All right, so recapping the month of October, also want to roll through October results for you. Why? Because iron sharpens iron. And it's a great way for you to understand where it is that you are, where it is that you may be, and who it is that you might aspire to be, or where you might get inspiration from. And so with that, got to give a shout out to those that hit a home run club in the month of October. This is 1 listing taken, 1 contract written, 1 contract closed. Exceptional group of people who are doing incredible things in the month of October. Next up, $1 Million Month Club in the month of October. Typically, this is about a 1-column or 2-column club during this time of year, and it's a 3-column club this month. Incredible group of folks who are achieving incredible success this fall and fall of 2026 and taking advantage of the current market of the moment, because there is advantage to be taken advantage of in the market of the moment right now. Next up, agents on a team from a GCI perspective. Got to give a shout out to Steph Miller, Ginger Lazovic, Newbie, Martha Ola, Betsy Williamson, Stephanie Minnick, Megan Stallé, Will Stallé, Casey Lopez, Christiane, Kathy Shaw, Katie Falk, Molly Triggs, Lauren Floyd, Emily Gilders, rounding it out for agents GCI on a team. Next up, percentage volume increase year to date. Got to give a shout out to those that are absolutely crushing it versus where they were in prior years. Lori Flatt, Angela Palmer, Laura Brewster, come on, Brew, Big Ben Byers, Jordan Riet, Christine Evers, Jason Saskowski, Terrell, Lisi Miley, Brad Yates, Mary Walgren, Angela, Melissa, Judy Chanis, and Roger, rounding it out for highest percentage volume increase year to date. October volume for individual agents. Shout out to Gene Jaskowski coming in at number 1 in the month of October at 6.4, and Mary Deacon clipping at her heels at 5.9. Becky Thomas, Carla Florence, John Molitor, Laura Stoner, Sarah Dreyer, Nancy Meeks, Kristen Stahulik, Jessica Hanawi, Paris Hebner, Tamara Bolton, Callie Adler, Karen Spitney, William Lauer, Mary Walgreen, Ben Byers, Becky, Allison Maris, and Katie Egan-Keen, rounding it out for individual agents in the month of October. Year to date, individual units. Again, agents control their units. The market gives you volume. Molitor leading the way at 94 units. Oberbrunner, Abby Wall, Stahulik, Becky, Judy, Lindsay Andrews, Mary Deacon, Becky Thomas, Joey Carini, Sarah Dreyer, Allison Maris, Jessica Hanawi, Alexandra, Ethan, Melissa, William Lauer, Jean, CJ, and Kimberly, rounding it out for individual agents. Individual agents year to date closed units. Here we are, year-to-date individual close volume. Becky Thomas leading the way at 32.7 million. Congrats, Becky. Jean Jaskowski right behind her at 25.4. Mary Deacon, Sarah Oberbrunner, Molitor, Carla Florence, Sarah Dreyer, Elena Zeman, Allison Maris, Judy Moffitt, Kristen Stahulik, Abby Wall, Becky, Joey Carini, Jessica Hanawi, Melissa Bradley, Paris, Lindsay Andrews, Robin McCormick, and Angela Palmer, rounding it out for individual agents year-to-date volume through the month of October. October team volume, Highmark leading the way at 19.1, FRG at 15.3, Gallagher Lake Country at 9.9, SRG, Duval, House to Home, the Tie Team, Root River, Fair Hinton, Levine, On Point, Holt, PFPG, Revolution, Champaign, Dietrich, Akey Home, the Gossman, Desties, and MKE Real Estate Collective, rounding it out for October team volume. Year-to-date team units, Highmark leading the way at 313, Root River, FRG, SRG, Levine, House to Home, On Point, Fair Hinton, Revolution, the Tie Team, Akey Home, PFPG, Testes, Duval, Enlighten, Holt, Gossman, Champaign, Gallagher, and Dietrich. There you go, year-to-date team units. And year-to-date team volume, FRG leading the way at 181, Highmark at 171, SRG Gallagher Lake Country, El Safi team, Root River, House to Home, the Thai team, On Point, Fairhinton, Duval, Levine, Revolution, Akey Home, PFPG, Champagne, Desty's team, Enlighten, Holt, and the Gosping Group, rounding it out for team volume year to date. Guys, iron sharpens iron. And lean on your peers, because we have an exceptionally productive group of peers that you can learn from and lean into. And it's amazing what happens when you raise your hand asking for help, who might show up to help you. And it's great perspective to have in terms of the productivity of the peers around you. And we celebrate you guys through the productivity you had in the fall, in October of 2026. All right. With that, I wanted to give you guys a quick update as it relates to United Way. And I just personally want to say thank you. The United Way campaign is a quick sprint for us. And it's a quick sprint to see the impact that we can make within our communities across greater Milwaukee and Waukesha County. We choose the United Way because it's a way for you to choose where you want your dollars to go directly to. For example, we made a donation. Our donation went to Axe Housing, and I could allocate exactly where that donation went to. Or if you don't have something that you're passionate for, you can choose that it goes right to the United Way campaign general fund, and then they allocate it based on where their needs are. And we are closing out our campaign today. I wanted to provide you guys an update. We had a $30,000 goal for the campaign. Last year we had a $25,000 goal. This year we put it at $30,000, and as of this morning, we are at $45,365 raised in effectively a 2-week span. I have to really give a shout out to the Innovation and Lake Country crew. Having over 50% of your roster make a contribution to something like this is not lost on me. And that's not saying that North Shore Prestige or Southwest didn't do their part either. Everyone did. And I would also say, on behalf of myself and the organization and our leadership teams that really drove this, it's not lost on me when you ask someone to give of their treasure, and to give somewhere where sometimes you don't know where it's going to go or how it's going to make an impact to. And as I kind of shared with you 2 weeks ago, in a world in the nonprofit space where grant dollars and federal funding, there's a lot of uncertainty too. Campaigns like the United Way are vital right now to ensure that so many incredible partner organizations, like we learned from last week, have the funding they need in order to continue to do the work that they do within our communities, because our industry benefits from very strong communities in southeastern Wisconsin, because our industry thrives on stability that creates predictability so that people can become homeowners. And so I just wanted to say thank you guys as we wrap up the campaign today, for raising over $45,000. Quick sidebar story: about 5-6 years ago, maybe longer, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, at Christmas time, we raised some money for a single mother family. And, we raised, I think it was like $27,000, helped them get into a Habitat home and fill the home with furniture and so on and so forth. And I felt like that was a really, really heavy lift 5-6 years ago. And it's amazing. I will say, admittedly, the United Way campaign feels like a generally easy lift to make such an impact the way that we did. And it's not because of anything we did other than just engaging you guys, and it's everything that you guys did to contribute to the campaign. So I thank you for that deeply. It really means a lot to our communities. So the campaign's finishing out today. Lots of questions as it relates to our raffle prizes. Willis and I are connecting. Chairman Willis of our United Way campaign and I will be collaborating this afternoon, and we will be putting together a reel of the winners for our raffle prizes. And we did have some participants who I will be hosting at the lake for a day at the lake, which I love being able for those that contributed at that level. Those that won the raffle items, we will be reaching out to you this week and then communicating out as we close out the campaign today. So thank you for that. And then lastly, while it is the last day, I know a few in the Lake Country have already asked me where they were at in terms of the position. And the food truck will be announced later this afternoon once we close out the campaign as well. So guys, on behalf of our group, from Allie to Bella to Ginger to Shania, Maureen, Chairman Willis, Courtney, Steph, Amber, Allie, and Jen Church, thank you guys for your participation. And I just want to say thank you to these group of leaders who really brought their energy and influence to helping align into doing and creating an incredible impact in raising the money that we did over the last 2 weeks. So thank you guys from the United Way perspective. All right, upcoming education events, a handful of things I want to point out to you guys. Reminder, if you weren't paying attention, next week is Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving, just so you know, there is no team meeting on Tuesday. We do close the offices at noon on Wednesday to give our teams a little bit of a head start in the event that they need to travel and to give them back a little bit of time with their friends and family. So offices will be closing at noon on Wednesday. And shoot, sorry guys. And offices then will be closed for the Thanksgiving week, Thursday and Friday of next week. As a reminder, your FOBs give you access to the offices 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in the event that you need to utilize the spaces next week. Sound good? Sweet. All right, November training calendar. Basically, we're rolling into next week as it relates to Thanksgiving. There's the update. December, we are starting to finalize this week, and we should have it out to you shortly. A handful of things to point out. PC coaching, here is your schedule for the balance of the year across all locations. And then lastly, our last vision board is tomorrow in the Southwest office. If you didn't have a chance to participate, feel free to jump into the Southwest office from 9 to 11 to participate in vision boards. We've had, to date, we've had over 140 people participate in the vision board exercise and activity. So it's been a big believer in manifestation to your destiny. Reminder, we're still taking RSVPs. It's a very strong response to our holiday party, which will be held at the Pfister on Thursday, December 4th from 6 to 10:30-ish. It is a more formal attire recommended and suggested. As a heads up, Ignite will be rolling back in the month of January. Starting on January 7th, we will be hosting at this time at the North Shore office from 9 to noon. If you don't know what Ignite is, here's a quick synopsis. It's basically a baker's dozen's worth of classes, 13 if you didn't know what that was, 13 classes where your peers are teaching what it is that makes them special. And we curate the content based on what it is that makes them special. For example, in the past, we've had Jay teach his listing presentation. We've had Amanda Schroeder teach her models and systems. You get 13 different perspectives because diversity of thought and diversity of approach is incredibly beneficial to think about how you do this business differently in order to make an impact for you and your clients. Registration will be opening soon, and the class is free. It is nothing but an investment of your time, energy, and resources to show up, because the world is run by those who show up. Next up, Family Reunion. If you haven't seen the latest announcements, Family Reunion, Keller Williams' largest national convention of the year, is held February 21st to the 24th in Atlanta, Georgia, a very easy Delta direct flight away from Milwaukee. It is launching on Saturday, the 21st, with the CEO Summit, an incredibly curated group of speakers this year. Everyone from Will Gudara, who wrote the book Unreasonable Hospitality, to an incredible mind within the space, Gary Vee, all around social media, Ryan Leake. Obviously, Gary will give his vision speech on the state of the industry, and then we will be wrapping it up Tuesday, the 24th, with Jay Shetty. I personally believe, in my opinion, the best event of the entire year across anything that we do. Take the big events, Family Reunion, Mega Camp, Bold, is Family Reunion. Why? Because you can curate your own experience. For perspective, and this happens every single year, you basically need one referral from a network connection that you made at the event for the event to become a break even. 2 referral networks, you're making money by attending the event on top of the educational component of what you're doing to build your business. As you can probably see and tell, there's a big heavy emphasis on social content creation, influence, as well as the integration of technology and artificial intelligence in this year's Family Reunion, all down in Atlanta, Georgia, February 21st to the 24th. All right, one quick update for you in terms of exploring the KWMKE app. Yesterday, I got an update. We've had over 3,000 unique interactions with the app in terms of questions. That's just direct questions. That doesn't include just the accessibility to resources. But last week, We rolled out restructuring of our compliance team in terms of our compliance team going directly into what we are called or mirroring as a WR legal hotline to ensure the speed and efficiency to the response times and the service levels that you expect from us. And one of the things that we've implemented this week as it relates to the app is, let's say you forgot how you stored the number or if you stored the number and you don't know how to get a hold of a compliance broker. Well, you're in luck. All you have to do is go to your resources tab within the app, go up here to speed dial, hit call, and boom, you'll have a compliance broker on the line within minutes. So you can see we're thinking about how we're integrating this app into all of our workflows, and would encourage you guys, if you need to get a hold of the compliance helpline, you can do so directly on speed dial through the KWMKE app. So if you haven't downloaded it yet, encourage you to do so. We've had 3,000 plus unique interactions. It's amazing the speed and efficiency in which that this has helped evolve our business in terms of getting you the answers and service you need with incredible efficiency. So make sure you're engaging in that way. And with that, I'm turning it over to Lieutenant Steph. Lieutenant, what do these guys need to know around right to cure and correcting your offers and more?
Good morning, guys. Yes, so we'll probably include this slide for the next couple team meetings. Yes, of course, you guys can access the number through our KW app, but here's the number again. Please set it as a contact. Kimmy rolled this out last week along with a follow-up email with best practices. It's been running great so far, so thank you guys for adapting to it so quickly. We're really excited for this, especially for spring market. So again, thank you guys so much for helping us out. All right, next slide, Charlie. GMAR dues. So beginning December 1st, a $50 late fee will be applied. So please make sure that you guys are getting those dues in and paid by the end of November. We'd love to save you guys $50 between December 1st and December 31st, that $50 late fee will be applied. But then beginning January 1st, I believe the fine goes up to $225. So you guys, you got to get those in. No need to let us know that you have paid them. Beginning in December, we will start tracking that with the GMAR. I can get that information directly from the GMAR, and we will start reaching out to you guys individually. And I'm sure that Charlie will about to say this, but MLS will be turned off for you as well. So make sure we got to take this seriously on getting those GMAR dues in and paid on time. So,
Steph, you know what amazes me every year when association dues come up?
what?
When someone's MLS is shut off in January and then they don't know why. And then you know what my response is?
Look for the 5,000 emails we've sent out.
No. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. There you go.
So, but yeah, we want to help you guys out. So we are more than happy to send out those reminders beginning in December, but make our jobs easier by sending out fewer emails. So, okay, so then a reminder from Kimmy in terms of making corrections on an accepted offer. So just a reminder that we do need to be utilizing an amendment to make corrections on our
This is a political exercise for Democrats and a few others, sadly.
Gotta.
You're good, Steph.
Okay. We need to utilize an amendment to make those corrections on an accepted offer. So on the flip side, we cannot go back to an executed accepted offer and go back to the original offer, make strikeouts, add our own verbiage, and have the parties initial. We need to be spelling out those changes on an amendment and having all parties sign the amendment, okay? So just a small reminder on that. And then next up, so back in July, we were really heavy-handed as the compliance team going over the inspection contingency. In our minds, you know, this is not a topic we can talk enough about. So beginning in December, we're going to be going back over the inspection contingency along with your PC coaches. So covering all things around the inspection contingency in PC and in contract training. This email came out from the WRA just yesterday. So they must be having an uptick in questions around the inspection contingency as well. So again, we've been kind of hammering this the past, I'd say 6 months to 8 months. The inspection contingency is now back in full force in our offers. There was a time when, a lot of people were foregoing, a lot of buyers were foregoing that inspection contingency, and we didn't even have to deal with it at all. So now we just kind of need to relearn and sharpen our tools again as it relates to the inspection contingency. So again, this is from the WRA's newsletter that was sent out yesterday, just reintroducing their resources around the inspection contingency. I did put an arrow here to my favorite tool, the home inspection flow chart, which differentiates the pathways between having right to cure or not having right to cure. So I did want to touch on the right to cure again this morning. So if you want to go back, Charlie. So this concept of the right to cure is attached to our inspection and appraisal contingencies. So I'm always telling people that it's kind of hard to wrap our heads around it because we hope that it never gets triggered, right? So this is essentially the roadmap in the contract when negotiations fail. So when we're past that amendment stage, we're always making attempts to negotiate first as it relates to repairs, closing cost credits, price reductions based off the results of an inspection contingency, an inspection, a general home inspection. And then also as it relates to the appraised value, if that appraised value comes in lower than that purchase price, again, we're always making attempts to negotiate that price. So again, this only gets triggered when those negotiations fail. And that's why it's kind of hard to get our heads wrapped around it because, again, we hope it never even gets to this point. We're hoping that we never even have to worry about the right to cure. So again, just some reminders around it. So again, it's only triggered when a notice of defects or a notice of objection to appraised value is served. And it really just determines who has the power to declare the offer null and void. So that seller either has the right to cure or does not have the right to cure. If the seller has the right, they go ahead and cure and everyone goes to close, or they can release the buyer. Where we're getting hung up a lot is when that seller has been given the right to cure, a notice of defects is served, and that seller chooses to cure, and the buyer did not intend for that to happen. So we're getting a lot of questions around what to do when we're at that stage. And again, we just have to follow the contract. So it's really pointing our buyers back to their own attorneys. If the seller does not have the right to cure, then the buyer has the power to kill the deal. So again, with that same notice of defects, is being served to the seller does not have the right to cure, then the deal is dead just through the means of the notice being served, and the buyer can exit the deal. I guess what we want you guys to hear is that you really should be having conversations about this when you are drafting an offer. It may not be appropriate, or it may be the case where the buyer is not in competition and not giving the right to cure is an appropriate way to draft the offer. Again, dependent upon what your buyer wants to do after explaining it. So obviously it's more advantageous for a seller to have the right to cure, and more advantageous for the buyer if the seller does not have the right to cure. So again, we just want you guys to be having conversations with your buyer at the time of drafting the offer, of course.
And it's important to pay attention to, because Steph alluded to, 60% of all deals that we looked at in the month of October had an inspection contingency. 60%.
Yeah, they're back in full effect, and it's great. We love inspections, to be honest. It protects everybody. So, and then again, back to that flow chart. This was a tool that I used. I had it, I remember, pinned up on my desk. It's a great tool to use. It really just maps out whether the seller has the right to cure or does not have the right to cure and the pathways in which the contract can go. So I encourage everyone to download this, and it's on the app too. Kimmy just double checked for us last night and it's there. So okay, so then to round it out, the November and December contract trainings, November 24th, we're doing compliance and command. Lindsay and I do that once a month. And then, as I had already said, we're doing all things inspection in the month of December, along with the PC coaches. So we're really complementing what the PC programs are teaching the next month. So inspection contingency, best practices during the inspection period, drafting an amendment or drafting a notice of defects. And then on December 22nd, we'll just do open hours and have that time allotted for any questions you might have.
Sweet.
All right.
Lieutenant, over and out.
See you guys.
All right, with that, Vranek, you're up. What are we talking about this week as it relates to setting the standards, protecting the brand, and delivering with confidence?
Yeah, so I am sticking with the compliance theme today. So I just wanted to go through a few guidelines and expectations in regards to our Keller Williams MKE marketing concierge. So a few things here. Just wanted to go through some turnaround times. So we want you guys, when you're submitting those requests, to know exactly what to expect and when. So for any templated designs, you can expect those back within 2 business days. Now, for more custom designs, we just asked to allow a little bit more additional time for any new layouts, any brand building kits, specialized edits, and things like that. Now, when it comes to logos, if you've graduated the productivity coaching program and you've completed your first 5 transactions, that is then when, if you choose to have a logo designed, that's when you can request that. When you're in the PC program, we really want you focused in on building your business, getting the business, lead generation, understanding the contracts, compliance, and things like that, plugging into that training. Now, in regards to revisions, so minor edits are typically turned around the same day. If you have any larger revisions, that may extend those delivery timelines. Now, if you have rush requests, let's say you need an open house flyer on a Friday for the open house that's on Saturday, just note that in your submission, and then we'll do our absolute best to accommodate those requests. In regards to yard signs specifically, and we have our whole separate guidelines on yard signs on the website through our marketing concierge, but the biggest thing to note is that KW logo must take up 20% of the sign. So this is more so if you're working with your own graphic designer and you're working on your own design for your yard signs, just take note that KW logo needs to take up 20% of the sign, or roughly 20%. It's always best practice to send us that artwork to approve it prior to you placing those orders. And
yeah, the biggest thing here is, look, we aren't policing it. I mean, I'm just being honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not here to like come down on you. It's when agents get called in front of the DSPS because they don't have, and this is, I quote, the state law, clear and conspicuous brokerage affiliation. If you get called in front of the DSPS, you just have to understand, if that happens, why it happens. We want you to build your brand. We really, if I had my way, I wouldn't put KW on anything. That's my personal stance, because I view us as a platform to serve you, but I also have to play within the state laws and state guidelines. Make sense? Cool.
Yeah, and ultimately we want to protect you guys, and this is why we want to go over some of these things. And so just to note a couple other things in regards to Keller Williams has their own identity and style guide. So I just want to touch on a couple of those things, as well as some of the pieces from the WRA. So this might seem obvious, but I'm just going to reiterate it. All marketing materials must have the Keller Williams logo. The other thing to note, and this is specifically pulled from that KW identity and style guide, is that the Keller Williams logo must follow the appropriate color palette of Keller Williams. So no custom brand colors. So my suggestion is usually using that white or black version of the KW logo to to kind of keep your brand cohesive in that way on your marketing materials. But just kind of keep that in mind too as you're designing, if you're designing your own items. And then according to the WRA, make sure that your company name is readily apparent in any real estate advertising you do. So again, it seems super obvious, but this is mainly in relation to any sort of advertising you do, such as your social media accounts, the name of your Facebook page, making sure that you have Keller Williams in your Instagram profile. And then also, this includes teams and other entities working under a brokerage company's licensure. So for example, if you're naming your Facebook page, making sure, and if you're part of a team, then you would do something like the Sam Jones team of Keller Williams Realty. So again, just wanted to highlight some of those reminders in regards to marketing requirements and some of those compliance factors. And if you want to read more about that, we have all of these things listed on the KWRealtyMKE.com website under the Marketing Concierge page. So you'll see a link for the guidelines and expectations, just if you want to refer back to anything. Otherwise, reach out to myself or someone on the marketing team, and we're happy to help guide you in any way that we need to. Another reminder, so all of this information is actually on the KWMKE app. So just wanted to highlight that feature as well. So if you click on the resources tab, scroll over to the marketing, all of these are linked on here. So if you need to submit a marketing request, whether it's a social media post, your own branded listing and buyer guides, listing marketing materials, you can do it directly from the app. We also house all of the Keller Williams logos, that KW style and identity guide that I highlighted. And there's even a link to the YouTube channel, the Command 66-Day Challenge. We've got the luxury call workbooks on there, the Community Pulse magazine. So guys, make sure you're utilizing that KWMKE app for anything compliance, anything marketing, everything's linked on here and makes it super easy to access. And then I think I have one final note. All right, so switching gears just a little bit here. So you may have seen my Facebook post a few weeks ago. I just wanted to bring this to the larger group in case other people haven't seen this, but we're no longer advising the use of the sign install company Smart Signs due to some poor communication issues. So if you've experienced that and you have existing inventory still there, notify someone on the leadership team and we will coordinate a pickup. And then we'll also coordinate hooking you up with a new sign install company. We recommend either Wisconsin Sign or Amplify Graphics. So this doesn't mean that you can't use them at all. So if you haven't had issues, you're more than welcome to keep using them. We just want to make agents aware of some of the issues that other agents have had with them, and that we will help you kind of get out of using them, so to speak. So that's all I got.
Yeah, it was admittedly a cool experience where somebody got in over their skis from the scale perspective. And I drove my truck over to Smart Signs and we picked up every sign we could possibly get our hands on, but I understand some are still in the market. And so if you need access to those signs, reach out to the team and we will go coordinate a pickup. Cool. All right, with that, I'm going to transition into the market of the moment, and I asked Blake to jump on from Cream City Mortgage to give us a quick update as it relates to what's going on within the mortgage industry, because it's been a little bit of a yo-yo experiment, and you need to be paying attention. And the reason why I put this in here is because next I will go into the market of the moment update, and it will help you understand the perspective I shared earlier, that the market is a bit of like a seesaw, and mortgage rates have a big piece to do with that. So, Blake, what do these guys need to be paying attention to? Mr. Early? Maybe not. All right. Good thing I have some mortgage updates for you internally. I got it.
Hear us?
Yes, now I can.
All right. Good morning and welcome to the inaugural Cream City Mortgage Minutes. I'm Blake with Cream City, where we focus on communication, creativity, and great service. So the current mortgage rate as of today is about 6.25%. This is the Freddie Mac graph of where rates have been and where we are now. And this is usually about a week delayed. So we're about 6.25% to 6.4%. And that's for well-qualified buyers. So 780 plus credit scores, single family homes, primary residence, well-qualified buyers. Next. All right, so where do we anticipate rates going? All of the pundits think rates are going to be about 5.75 to 6% in the next 6 to 12 months. And that's based on a lot of the economic data that comes out, inflation, CPI, unemployment, all that good stuff. I personally think we're going to be about at 6% for the foreseeable future. And that's based on the U.S. balance sheet where the 10-year treasury is going to be. It's sticking right about here. So what trends we're noticing is, 6 months ago, rates were, or almost a year ago now, actually, rates were about 7.25%, 7.5%. So they've come down quite a bit, which is great, obviously. And like I said, I think rates are going to stick to about 6 to 6.25% for the foreseeable future. Refinance opportunities, when's a good time to refi? The answer is always going to be, it depends. That's just how it is. Some people will try to get 1% difference in rate, but that's not necessarily true. You could get rid of PMI, how quick the market gets to where it's going. If we gap down to 5.75, maybe we want to wait. So if you have buyers who bought, I would say between January and June, your rate is likely a 0.5 point to a point higher than where it is now. So I would recommend reaching out to those buyers and having them get in touch with us or their lender, whatever, it doesn't matter. But it could be a good time to refinance. Okay, so normally what we'll do is we'll have a little giveaway at the end of these mortgage minutes, like a little participation prize. We don't have anything set up for today. So Dana created a joke for you guys. Why did the mortgage broker go broke? Because he lost interest. That's it. Thank you very much.
All right, Blake, thanks for the quick update. All right, market of the moment insights. Sharing with you guys some perspective as to what I'm seeing in October. And here's kind of the quick down and dirty data. Lastly, then I will finish with some questions for you as you think about your 2026 planning that hit me across my head like hit me on my forehead yesterday when I was looking at something on LinkedIn, and I'll share with you at the end. So market of the moment insights, what's going on? New inventory units, I'm going to start here because this is an interesting data point for you. In October this year versus October of last year, we had a 3% increase or an additional 74 new inventory units that came to the market this year versus last year. What's incredibly interesting, which does not typically happen at this time of year, we had more new inventory units that came to the market in the month of October than we did in August of this year and in March of this year. You heard that correct. There was more new inventory that came to the market in October of this year than August of this year and March of this year. Most of you are building to a March point coming out of Christmas. My point to telling you this is don't take your foot off the gas in terms of the listing opportunities that are available to you right now in the market of the moment. For perspective, looking back on a 2-year history, we were up 9% or an additional 212 units versus October of 23. The reason why I give you this perspective is 2022, 2023 was about where we saw the bottom of the market and where we're starting to climb back out. And that story continues to ring true from a trend perspective. Total inventory perspective, it was up 4% October versus this year, or an additional 265 units versus October of last year. When we look at versus August of this year, again, I'm looking at August because everyone always thinks, oh, the market steadily goes down. Not true this year. The fall market has been robust. Total inventory versus August of this year was up 3%, also up substantially versus where it was in March of this year. Again, the fall market is hot. Versus October of 23, it's up 8% or an additional 497 units. Now, here's where you need to be paying attention. Listing agents, I need you to listen and open up your ears. Why? It's the second highest inventory we've had in 2+ years. So what does this mean? We need to be paying attention to our vital signs as it relates to days on market and list the price to accepted offer ratios because you don't want to get expired. Now, so what did I do? I pulled that data for you. When you look here at total days on market, this year versus last year, it's effectively a week longer. When you look at it versus September of this year, so October of this year versus September of this year, it's a week longer. Versus October of 23, it's a week longer. Days on market are getting longer. Pay attention. Now, I also pulled something, and this is new. I haven't shown you this data before, but this is the list price to accepted offer price ratios between those listings that have no price changes and those listings that have one or more price change. What you can see here is if you price your listings appropriately, they are effectively selling it for what you appropriately listed it for. If you misappropriate the pricing on the front side, it is averaging out to be about a 10% loss, not a 10% loss, but a 10% reduction in what it ultimately gets accepted for. So for example, on a $500,000 home, it's a reduction in $50,000 on the backside if you have to make a pricing change. I'm just using simple math here to help paint a picture. Point being is you have to price your listings appropriately because the market is now responding to those that have gotten greedy. Okay? And we know this because expired inventory units are the second highest it's been in 2+ years. Right size expectations, communicate appropriately, and price appropriately on the front side. So days on market of effectively a week longer than they have been over the last 2 years. So days on market metrics are going up. And when you price inappropriately on the front side, it costs your clients on the back side. Okay? And we know this because expired listing inventory is also going up substantially. Sales absorption rates, this is a percentage of inventory that goes under contract in a given month. I would tell you that demand has remained relatively stable and it's following typical seasonal trends as it relates to this time of year. Now, when you look at units going under contract, this year versus last year, it was down about 33. When we look at October of this year versus August of this year, it was only off by about 116. And when you look at it versus October of this year versus October of 23, it's up about 3% or 50 additional units. Effectively, buyer side demand is basically flat. We saw an uptick in September due to the rate changes, but demand hasn't totally changed. And you'll see where this plays into the data that's telling us what's winning right now. As Blake alluded to earlier, we talked a little bit about the mortgage rate scenario. I pulled a 50-year run so you can see going back to 1975, the trends of where we are. When you look a little bit more hyper-local, you can see on a 5-year basis of where rates started to increase in 2021. I talk about the bottom of the market being between 2022 and 2023. That is not a coincidence that that's correlative to when the rates were at their peak, right? And then if you look again here on a 1-year view, you can see, as Blake alluded to, it's standing right around 6.25 right now. Now, again, the lowest it's been in 2+ years. So you have an opportunity to add value to your clients, to educate them. It's the lowest it's been in the last 2+ years. And there's a refinance opportunity for those that have bought in the last 2 years. Something to think about as it relates to your touch points in November and December. Now, how has this impacted pricing? What's interesting is pricing, despite the fact that I would say demand has basically leveled off over the last 60 days, not gone back, but not gone up, pricing has jumped. So October of this year versus October of last year, average was up 11%, median was up 8%. Versus September of this year versus October of this year, it was basically even. I always look at trend changes on 30-day windows. Even's not a bad thing. And median over the last 2 years was up 21%, and the average is up 22%. So pricing still is continuing to climb. And when you look at it on an average price per square foot basis, it's up 9% versus last year and up 13% versus October of 23. Now, let's take a look at how all these things are impacting the market. And basically what my synopsis to the market is right now is we're in a bit more of a balanced market. And I share that with you, because prices are still appreciating. So sellers who are pricing appropriately are still getting what they believe the home to be valued in terms of a return on their investment. And yet, when you look at some of the metrics in terms of what is winning, you can see that buyers do have a bit more control within the leverage position in the negotiation of contracts. And yet, the leverage position isn't strong enough to change the pricing impacts. It was kind of a loaded statement. Do you understand what I'm saying? The reason I'm saying it's balanced is buyers have more leverage than they have had over the last 12 months, and yet it isn't changing the overall metrics as it relates to pricing, because pricing is still appreciating. So what's winning? Here's what we looked at. I always give you the perspective of what we saw in the spring market of this year. Here's where you saw list price to accepted offer ratios well over 100%. You also notice the inspection contingencies, where the majority did not have inspections and the minority did. And then you can see the impact it had on the co-broke compensation, where as it relates to how that was used as a leveraging or bargaining chip within the negotiations. Then we looked at August and September, where the market started to shift a little bit. In September, we saw an incidence where list price to accepted offer ratio was basically right around 100%, but the majority then had since had home inspections, and co-broke compensation jumped from what it was in the spring at 2.26% to 2.35%. Now let's take a look at October. October, list price to accepted offer ratio was 98.9%. Pay attention to this, listing agents. 98.9%. Still, from a finance perspective, financed offers came back. It was basically a 70-30 ratio, cash versus financed. 60% of those deals that we reviewed in the month of October, this is 244 deals, mind you, that we reviewed. 60% had inspection contingencies. Of those with inspection contingencies, 32% of them had inspection thresholds with an average threshold of $5,000. And the co-broke compensation was 2.34%. So this is the data behind why I believe the market to be getting a bit more balanced. It's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's balanced from the standpoint buyers have a bit more leveraging position right now, and you're seeing that within the metrics and the data that's helping them win deals. And yet at the same time, prices are still appreciating at a relatively healthy rate, right around 7 to 8%. So here were the predictions I gave you in 2025. I more so give this to you as a follow-up as to where I thought it would head. And it's basically right on par with where I thought the market would be. So what's my market of the moment script? It's pretty simple. Basically, the demand of the market is still strong, but creating a more balanced negotiating position. Okay. The drop in rates has increased buyer activity. It is impacting inventory. New inventory coming to the market remains strong. It's also part of the reason why I think buyers' negotiating position has balanced out a little bit, because the amount of inventory coming this fall is more so than what we had seen in historical falls. So there's been more inventory on the market. Listing agents, you got to pay attention to your vital signs, because we're starting to see days on market increase by about a week than what we had historically operated in, and your list price to accepted offer ratios are starting to go down. So pay attention to your pricing. Expireds, it's kind of the same old story. They've accelerated pace because sellers are impatient. Rates are the lowest they've been since July of 24. And despite all of this, pricing is continuing to appreciate. So here's your synopsis. Prices aren't cooling. Buyers have a bit more leveraging position. That's why I say it's like my 2-year-old and my 3-year-old when they get on the seesaw. They kind of sit there. Nothing's really going wonky. So I share that with you from the standpoint of there's massive opportunity to be had this fall. And even though we're sitting here with a week to go before Thanksgiving, I would tell you, I would not take my foot off the gas this fall. I'd be pressing the pedal to the metal, because the momentum it will build for you heading into 2026, and the market's reacting in that way. All right, quick update for you as it relates to LOR and the productivity report of our peers. Here's an incredible stat for you. This group collectively made 60% more income in the month of October of this year than what they did last year. We paid out $6.4 million in total gross commission incomes earned for the group. It tells you that A, the productivity of the group, but also B, you're taking advantage of the market of the moment. Year to date, total commissions paid out is up 27%, just under 60 million total paid commissions paid out to this group. Incredible, credible results. The reason why I share that with you is because sometimes when I share the KW data, you guys think, oh, it's a little hot air, a little, no, I realized this something. I said, well, why don't I just lead with their income to say, if they're making 60% more income in the month of October, why wouldn't we collectively as a group be more productive? So you can see I'm putting something behind the data. From a profit share perspective, we're going to pay out $67,000 in the month of October. It was a 13% increase versus October of last year. And year to date, we'll pay out just under $700,000 or an 8% increase versus year to date in 2024. So check your bank accounts in 3 days, November 21st, for the October profit share payments. Here you can see the top 10 brokerage brand results through 2025. This is through October 31st. You can see the results there at a 15.5% market share perspective and growing at a roughly 18 to 20% clip. It's very substantial versus our peers. Most of our peers from a market share perspective are stagnant or actually going backwards. Here, I always share the culture of productivity as it relates to our average. We're not in business of being average, but how we compare versus our peers from a productivity standpoint. Here you can see the latest 12-month trends because I like the visuals of things that start on the left and go up to the right. Here I included the Kenosha and Walworth counties as well for our friends down in Kenosha and Walworth who also sell in the lower southeastern part of the region where we've continued to grow and expand to use from a market share perspective. And then our ever popular luxury graph, which as of so far through October of this year, we are selling basically one out of every 4 luxury homes in southeastern Wisconsin, all of which we utilize to help share and tell the story of your collective success and productivity as a group. Cool? Oh, and there's starts on the left and goes up to the right. Again, just good visuals and happy to provide any of this data to you as you might see or need fit. All right. So last thing I'll share with you. And I've shared this with the group that a lot of times I view my job as the way to challenge to get you guys the way in which you think. It's not to tell you what to do. It's not to manage you. It's to get you to think. And if I get you to think differently, you will act differently. And yesterday I was scrolling LinkedIn and I saw a post that I thought was incredibly intriguing. And it made me think to what I've been challenging you as it relates to how you think about your brand as a model heading into 2026. And since July, periodically, I've thrown this up there as it relates to how you think about you building your businesses. What is your brand's promise? You have to understand it better than anyone else, and you have to live it every day. And yesterday, I saw a LinkedIn post from a peer. I wouldn't say he's a friend. I actually don't know this person well personally, but I saw a post that was engaging. I read it, and it made me think. So I thought I would share it with you because it's very much correlative to this model as it relates to how you think about your brand into 2026. And there's a gentleman whose name is Dustin Godsey. Dustin is the chief marketing officer at the Milwaukee Bucks. Okay. And I'm just going to read you the post because it made me think. And then I'm going to share with you what really hit me. He said, I've seen a few posts on here recently along the lines of, if I was the CMO of XYZ company, I'd immediately do, and the action steps they list generally include things like make copier edgier or modernize our fonts and logos and begin process of complete rebrand or start an influencer campaign to get attention. All of which I hear from a real estate agent's perspective all the time because people are thinking about a variety of things that actually I believe don't move the needle. And and the post goes on to say, what I haven't seen is understand this brand is, good and bad, and figure out what the opportunities for growth are. Or meet with revenue departments and understand what has worked and not worked in the past and where marketing can help. The night before I was interviewing for my role with the Bucks almost 14 years ago, I jotted a list of interview questions literally on the back of a napkin that I wanted to ask every person I interviewed with the next day. The napkin is posted in my office to this day, and while the answers have evolved over time, it's a constant reminder that you can create all of the flashy campaigns you want, but if you haven't asked the right questions, none of it will matter. There is a lot of discourse around why CMO tenures are, so on and so forth. He talks about marketing and what the focus is. Here's my point. I've challenged you with this concept of what is your brand's promise, and you have to understand it better than anyone else, and you have to live it every single day. And in Dustin's post, he shared with us the napkin. And here are the questions he asked when he interviewed with the Bucks 14 years ago that has helped, I would say, quite frankly, transform a brand. Because 14 years ago, the Bucks were not a brand. They were just an entertainment. I would argue that the Bucks are a brand. Here were the questions that I would be asking myself as well. And now you would translate this as to who your brand is. His questions were this: who are the Bucks? What do the Bucks mean? Who are Bucks fans? Why do people come to Bucks games? And what do the Bucks stand for? And I would make the question, as it relates to how you think about your brand, is if I were to pick any XYZ real estate team or agent, and I'm just going to use Jim Smith. Who is Jim Smith? What does Jim Smith mean as it relates to the brand? What is Jim Smith's promise? Again, you could correlate this to Katie and Jeff Sayers or Becky Thomas or Aletha Champagne or anybody else in between. Who are Jim Smith's biggest fans? Why do people come to Jim Smith? And what does Jim Smith stand for? Those are questions I'd be asking yourself as you head into 2026 and how you think about how you frame your value proposition for your clients. And I would get intimately involved in understanding what those questions mean for you, your brand, and your reputation as you head into 2026 and beyond to take over the world. You feel me? Love it. It's something I came across yesterday that made me think, and I thought I'd share it with you as it relates to as you build your brand and your businesses heading into 2026 to help you keenly focus on what's most important and get all the fluff out of your head. Cool? Guys, it's a beautiful day in Milwaukee. Grateful for our partnership. Thank you for your trust in us. I apologize we went a little longer today, but in the spirit of gratitude, thank you guys for your trust and partnership with us. Thank you for your participation in the United Way. And guys, it's a beautiful day in Milwaukee. Have a great day. Thanks for showing up.